An incident happened to me 20 years ago, and I have not found an explanation for it until now, and I have not revealed it to anyone, even though it causes me confusion every time I mention it. It is as follows. I was sleeping on a bed, and next to me was my wife sleeping on the floor of the room, and next to her was the baby girl who had not been born for 7 days. I was surprised by my wife screaming in a very loud voice and one terrifying scream. I was terrified and sat on the bed. I pulled the blanket directly over my head and saw the room filled with smoke. White, and my wife was sitting on the bed screaming, placing her hands on the little girl. I immediately said to her, "Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. Who started the fire? Where is the smoke from?" I sought refuge from Satan and read the exorcisms quickly. I would close my eyes and open them, trying to see clearly, 3 times and rubbing my eyes with my hands. The 3rd time, the smoke quickly disappeared and the atmosphere of the room cleared. I saw my wife shaking violently from fear. I calmed her down and asked her, where did the smoke come from, and what happened? She said, I was sleeping and I felt something standing over us wanting to take the child. The child was crying hard, and I asked her, did you see the smoke? She said, yes, because I suspected that when I woke up, my eyes were blurry. I was looking at the smoke and rubbing my eyes with my hands in order to clarify the source of the smoke. Smoke was filling the room with a white color and the shape of circular threads, and the density of the smoke was nesting over my wife and the child. The light, which was a small kerosene lamp, was placed on the shelf of the room as usual. Immediately when I panicked, I was seeking refuge from Satan and reciting exorcisms. The strange thing is that I did not feel any fear, but rather I was asking my wife about the source of the smoke and who started the fire. I thought she was awake, but it became clear to me that she was asleep and the baby's crying woke her up. When I woke up, I saw a strange shadow-like shape wanting to take the baby from next to her. She screamed and put her hands on the baby. Knowing that the door and windows were closed in the room and there was no opening or ventilation open to the outside, I asked her about the descriptions of what she saw. She said, he was bent over me and the child, and his shape resembled a shadow of a person who was a moon shadow, not a sun shadow, and he extended his arms to take the child, and the size of his arms was short, and he had thick black hair that fell over his face, covering his body to the middle, and a black dress, and the shadow was facing me and the light of the lamp was directly behind him, when he heard your voice. It disappeared in a flash, and smoke appeared covering the room, and I don't know where it came from, and after I heard you asking me about the smoke disappeared in a flash, and the lamp and light. There are events that confused me and require explanation. Where did the smoke come from? What is the source of the smoke? There was no trace of fire in the furniture of the room, and there was no smell of fire, just smoke without smell or smell, and the time was 12 midnight, and why was the shape of the smoke like spindle threads resembling hurricane dust blown by the wind, and there was no wind in the room, and was it due to the death of my first wife? Does my father and grandfather in the same room have anything to do with what happened? Is it possible that my first wife was exposed to demonic possession before her death, or is what happened to her a psychological condition due to the death of her child immediately after birth? Is the room haunted by spirits? This is what I ask you to kindly explain. Knowing that I live in the countryside, and in the same room my father, may God have mercy on him, died 3 years before the accident, a natural death. My first wife also died in it 5 years ago under mysterious circumstances, as she was found dead in the morning under the same bed and the room's door was ajar and it was not locked properly, and she was in the room. The evening was fine when she slept alone, and I was absent at the time. She had previously given birth, and the child died at the time of birth in her father's house, and she was struck by an illness that resembled unconsciousness and delirium, with slurred speech and laughter for no reason. We admitted her to the psychiatric hospital, and her mother, my mother-in-law, told me that after the birth and the death of the child, she was doing strange things, slurred speech, frequent going to the bathroom, and her trying to drink from the bathroom toilet several times, and they were preventing her. I also noticed her in the psychiatric hospital when I was giving her vegetables or any food. I noticed her eating. She had a very strange appetite and voracious appetite, as she was devouring food very quickly, as if there was something helping her chew and swallow. I was surprised and gave her more, and whenever I gave her, she ate and did not say, "It is enough," until I stopped giving her food. After 3 months, I left the hospital and remained healthy for a year. A wedding took place in the village, and my wife went to the wedding. 2 hours later, the women took her out of the wedding venue, holding her by her side, and walked with her to my house. I asked them what happened. They said, "She fainted and fell, so I sprinkled water on her and she woke up. She was complaining of tightness in her chest and that her heart was beating fast. God's mercy was upon her. She was very beautiful and there was strong affection between us. She is from the family, my cousin. After her death, I married my current wife, the mother of my 8 children, 4 males and 4 females, and my father was still alive when she died. He lives with my mother in the same house, as well as my brother, who is older than me, and his wife and children. At the time of her death, there were only my father, my mother, my brother's wife, and her children in the house. My brother and I were absent. The house is spacious, with 6 rooms joined by 1 hall and 1 main door to the house. She had a good relationship with everyone and there was no disagreement. Also, my grandfather, my father's father, died in the same room, a natural death. May God have mercy on them all, and on us and on you. I live my life normally, as do my wife and children, and the situation has not repeated itself. 2 years after the accident, I built a new house half a kilometer away from the first one, and to this day I still remember the situation. I am confused as to why it happened.
I am social assistant. My name's is Alexandra L. Oazani. It seems like you've shared a very detailed and harrowing experience, filled with mysterious occurrences and unanswered questions. From the description, it appears that there were inexplicable phenomena happening in your home, possibly connected to the tragic events surrounding your first wife's death, and the strange behavior she exhibited before her passing. The sudden appearance of smoke without a discernible source, coupled with your wife's terrifying encounter with a shadowy figure attempting to take the baby, creates an eerie atmosphere that is difficult to explain solely through natural means. The circumstances surrounding your first wife's death, her peculiar behavior afterward, and the history of deaths within the same room raise further questions about potential supernatural or paranormal influences. While it's challenging to provide definitive answers to such complex and deeply personal experiences, seeking guidance from spiritual or psychological experts might offer some insight or closure. Additionally, exploring methods of spiritual cleansing or protection for your home could help alleviate any lingering anxieties or concerns about potential hauntings or spiritual disturbances. Ultimately, finding peace and understanding amidst these unsettling events may require introspection, support from loved ones, and a willingness to confront the mysteries of the past with courage and resilience.